Ferrari arrives at the Chinese Grand Prix in one of the most tense moments in memory within the team, because just when Maranello has decided to carry out an aggressive package of improvements to try to change the course of the season, two of its own drivers have released a message that has completely shaken the paddock. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, the two faces of the SF26 project, have made it clear publicly that the car is still not at the level necessary to truly fight for victories, thus breaking the optimistic narrative that the team itself had tried to build after the first race of the year. And the most surprising thing is that these statements come just before Ferrari debuts in China a key technical package that includes very risky aerodynamic solutions, something that many within Formula One interpret as direct pressure on Maranello to demonstrate that the project really works. The question now is inevitable. Have Hamilton and Leclerc decided to launch this bomb because they trust that the improvements will transform the car, or because they know that Ferrari is still much further away from its rivals than the team wants to admit? The problem for Ferrari is that these statements not only call into question the car's current performance, but also expose a difference in perception between engineers and drivers. From a technical point of view, the team considers that the SF26 is a single-seater with a very high-performance window, capable of competing when the conditions are correct. But both Hamilton and Leclerc have made it clear that that window is still too narrow and that the car becomes unpredictable when conditions change slightly. During the first weekend of the championship, this behavior was already observed. Small variations in the configuration or the temperature of the asphalt could alter the balance of the car significantly. This means that Ferrari is still trying to fully understand the aerodynamic behavior of the package it has developed, something that in such a competitive season can cost crucial tenths against more consistent rivals. Leclerc's words were especially forceful when he directly compared the performance of the Ferrari to that of the Mercedes. According to their analysis, the German team continues to have a clear advantage in overall pace and above all in the stability of the car during long runs. That point is critical because consistency in the race is usually the factor that defines the fight for the championship. If a car can maintain a stable pace without excessively degrading the tires, it has a much better chance of controlling the strategy and managing the race. Ferrari, on the other hand, continues to show fluctuations in performance that force drivers to constantly push to keep up with their rivals. In a schedule as long and competitive as the current one, that type of weakness can become a structural problem for the team's aspirations. But Ferrari has not developed a single version of this wing, but rather several different configurations designed to adapt to different downforce needs. Some versions prioritize the car's stability in fast corners, while others seek to maximize straight-line efficiency even at the cost of sacrificing some aerodynamic support. This means that the team could use different settings between qualifying and the race depending on track conditions. On a circuit like Shanghai, where one of the longest straights in the championship is combined with long corners that punish the car's stability, this flexibility can become a very valuable strategic tool. In addition to the rear wing, Ferrari has also worked on evolutions of the car's floor, small modifications to the diffuser and optimizations in the management of the hybrid system to improve energy deployment at key moments of acceleration. However, what makes this package so important is that it is not just about improving the car's speed, but about fixing the structural problem that Hamilton and Leclerc had publicly pointed out. Both drivers had insisted that the Ferrari has potential, but that potential only appears in very specific configuration windows. In other words, the car may be fast, but it is too sensitive to small changes in track or aerodynamic balance. Engineers believe that part of that behavior comes from how the airflow interacts with the car's floor at high speeds, causing sudden changes in the level of downforce when the car enters certain phases of the corner. The modifications introduced for China seek precisely to stabilize that airflow and make the car's performance much more predictable for the drivers. The risk, however, is enormous. Introducing such a complex development package at such an early race means completely trusting that the wind tunnel and simulator simulations match what will happen on the real track. In modern Formula One, that correlation between data and reality is one of the biggest technical challenges. If the aerodynamic behavior of the car in Shanghai does not match what Ferrari expects, the team could find itself with a car that is extremely fast on the straight but unstable in the long corner areas, something that would force the drivers to reduce their aggressiveness in their driving. And that scenario would be especially problematic after the statements Hamilton and Leclerc have made, because it would reinforce the idea that Ferrari still does not have the behavior of its own car completely under control. That is why many within the paddock interpret that the words of both drivers were not coincidental. By launching those criticisms just before the arrival of the improvements, Hamilton and Leclerc have indirectly placed all the attention on the new technical package. If the updates work, Ferrari will be able to present Shanghai as the moment when the SF26 began to become a car capable of fighting for victories. But if the jump in performance does not appear, the media and sporting pressure on the team could multiply in a matter of days. And in a team with Ferrari's history and political pressure, that type of situation can trigger much deeper consequences than a simple track performance issue. As the Chinese Grand Prix approaches, all the focus within the paddock begins to concentrate on Ferrari, because the team arrives in Shanghai with something much more important than a simple package of improvements. It arrives with the need to demonstrate that the SF26 project can really sustain the ambitions that the team itself has built around it. The statements of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have not only called into question the current performance of the car, they have also transformed this race into a kind of public examination for the Maranello technical department. In modern Formula One, where narratives change race by race, the moment in which improvements arrive usually makes the difference between a project that begins to climb positions in the championship and another that remains trapped in a constant development phase without real results on the track. Therefore, beyond the technical component, the Chinese Grand Prix has become a psychological test for Ferrari, for its drivers, and for the entire team. The scenario that opens now has several possible readings, and all of them depend on how the new pieces work on the track. If the aerodynamic package that Ferrari has prepared manages to offer the leap in performance that they expect in Maranello, the discourse within the team could change radically in a matter of hours. A more efficient car on the straight, with better cornering stability and a wider performance window, would allow Hamilton and Leclerc to attack the races with much more strategic aggressiveness. In that scenario, the words that both drivers said before China could be reinterpreted as a form of internal pressure aimed at accelerating the development of the car, something that is not strange in Formula One when the drivers feel that the technical potential of the project is still not being fully exploited. Ferrari could then present this moment as the starting point of a new phase of the championship, a stage in which the SF26 would finally begin to show the performance that the team had promised since the pre-season. But there is also the opposite scenario, and it is precisely that generates the most tension within the paddock. If the improvements do not produce the expected leap, Ferrari's situation could become much more complicated in sporting and media terms. Because when the drivers themselves have publicly pointed out the car's weaknesses, any result that confirms those concerns automatically amplifies the pressure on the team. In that context, Hamilton and Leclerc's words would no longer be interpreted as a technical warning and would be seen as a sign that the SF26 project still has structural problems that Ferrari has not managed to completely resolve. And in a team with Ferrari's history in media exposure, that kind of perception can trigger internal debates about the direction of development, technical strategy, and even the sporting management of the project. In addition, there is another factor that makes this situation even more interesting from a competitive point of view. While Ferrari tries to solve its aerodynamic efficiency problems and widen the car's performance window, its direct rivals are not standing still. Mercedes has started the season showing very strong consistency in race pace, while Red Bull remains a reference in terms of power and energy efficiency. This means that even if Ferrari manages to improve its performance in China, the battle at the top of the championship will still be extremely tight. For Hamilton and Leclerc, every tenth of improvement that the team manages to find can become the difference between fighting for a podium or being stuck in the middle of the points. That is why the Chinese Grand Prix is emerging as a decisive moment in the story of this season. Ferrari arrives with a car that is still trying to find its final form, with two drivers who have decided to speak with unusual candor about the weaknesses of the project and with a package of improvements that could completely change the competitive balance of the SF26. If the updates work, Ferrari could start to build the momentum needed to get into real championship contention. But if the jump in performance does not appear, the bomb that Hamilton and Leclerc dropped before this race could become the beginning of much greater pressure on the team for the rest of the season. And just when everyone in Formula One is waiting to see if Ferrari has really found the solution in Shanghai, the big question that remains in the air is one that could define the team's immediate future. Were Hamilton and Leclerc anticipating a technical revolution that is about to arrive? Or were they simply revealing that Ferrari still has a much deeper problem than the team wants to admit? At this point, Ferrari arrives at the Chinese Grand Prix wrapped in a dangerous mix of expectations, pressure, and internal doubts that have been publicly exposed by its own drivers. The words of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were not simple comments of frustration after a complicated race, but a clear message that has put the true level of the SF26 at the center of the debate. Both drivers have made it clear that the car has potential, but have also acknowledged that it is not yet at the level necessary to dominate its rivals on a consistent basis. And that public recognition completely changes the context in which Ferrari introduces its new improvements, because now each evolution that comes to the car will be observed as a direct test of whether the project is really moving in the right direction. The technical package that Ferrari has prepared for Shanghai represents much more than an aerodynamic update. It symbolizes the team's response to the doubts that have arisen since the start of the season. If these improvements manage to widen the car's performance window, improve its straight-line efficiency and offer greater cornering stability, Ferrari could quickly transform the competitive landscape and restore confidence in both its drivers and the technical structure of Maranello. In that scenario, Hamilton and Leclerc's statements could be interpreted as a strategic warning that helped accelerate the development of the car at a key moment in the championship. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.